Hi, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me right now. Welcome, everybody. I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. This evening, we are holding our online meetup, TestTalks. We will be talking about test design techniques and how to use them. Our head of testing services, Berk Dülger, will be presenting his presentation about test design techniques. And I am Bilge. I'm the marketing specialist at Keytorc Software Testing Services. Now, I would like to share the presentation and start the meetup with you. We are a software testing company based in Turkey with a branch in London. I can't, okay. I was almost having a technical issue. Okay, I hope everyone can see right now my presentation. We are a software testing company based in Turkey and with a branch in London. We are 16 years old. Actually, we have been established at 2005. Actually, also we have 4 other domains. We have BA Works in business analysis services. We are presenting business analysis trainings and also business analysis services to our clients. Our other brand is UX services. We are presenting our UX design and usability services to our clients. And also we are holding UX and EX trainings at our UX services domain. Our fourth brand is Continuum. We are presenting our DevOps services and DevOps trainings at Continuum brand. And the fifth brand, our fifth domain is Explory. We are presenting design thinking services and employee experience services at Explory brand. At Keytorc, we are presenting test consulting to our clients. We have so far finished more than 600 projects, international and local, to our international and local clients. We are, most of the times, we are presenting test outsourcing services to our clients. We are mostly based in and experienced in finance, e-commerce, and defense and insurance domains. We are also giving test trainings. Some of our trainings are ISTQB certified, and some of our also international trainings. You can also see our trainings at our website. I will be copying our link at our chat box later. We are presenting our services more than at 10 countries. Actually, we have so far worked with more tan 800 companies, and also in our trainings, some of them are ISTQB certified, as I already said. We had hosted a lot of trainings so far. We have more than 80 employees also in our 5 brands, of course. And we are holding international conferences. We have a lot of fun both preparing those conferences and during those conferences. UX Istanbul Conference, Test Istanbul Conference, and BA Istanbul Conference. These are our international conferences. Test Istanbul and BA Istanbul is the largest conferences in our region. Also, UX Istanbul Conference is the first and only conference in the region, in Turkey and Southeast Asia. And we also hold test hackathons. This was the first one when we started the test hackathon. We held the last hackathon in 2019, and we couldn't hold the 2050 hackathon because of pandemic, but we expect to do it soon, later. We are also organizing a lot of events like this now, right now, and we are sponsoring Istanbul conference, and we are speaking and sponsoring other conferences like you can see in the presentation. And we are publishing lots of books and e-books, also reports, domain reports, business analysis in testing and software testing and in user experience domains. You can see some of our publishments in Amazon also. Some of them are Amazon bestsellers as well. We are also publishing Turkey software quality reports. We are coordinating with Turkish testing boards in this report. It's the 11th one has been published last year, and we will be working on the 12th one this year, hopefully, in the Test Istanbul conference, which will be happening at October this year. And DevOps State Report, our Continuum brand, as I have already said, our Continuum brand is working in the DevOps domain. So this last year we have published the DevOps State Report 2021 edition, and we will be also publishing the 2022 edition this year. You can also read and download these reports through our websites. I will be sending you the links for you to download freely of all these reports I have just said. We have international achievement, international awards. Actually, we are the winner of the European Software Testing Awards at 2018, and we were the finalists of DevOps Industry Awards at 2017. We have been selected as the 20 leading testing providers at 2016 by the Test magazine based in London, and we are really happy for all of these awards. Right now, I want to give the floor to Berk Dülger, who is the head of testing services at Keytorc, and he's also a certified ISTQB trainer. He will be mentioning our references, and then he will begin the test design techniques presentation. Hi, Berk.
Hi, Dülger. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you for being today here with all of the attendees and with me also. Thanks for your presentation already, and the floor is yours, Berk.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today and talking about test design techniques. First of all, I want to thank everyone joining us today. It's a hot evening here in Istanbul, and I think it will not be a problem for us. And if you let me share my presentation,
okay.
I can right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I will stop sharing and then you can stop. Okay. You can start, I guess.
Okay. Now I think I can. Can you see it?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. It's full screen now. Okay. Yeah. Let me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Berk Dülger. I am head of software testing services in Keytorc. I am also an experienced trainer for many years, instructing ISTQB trainings as well as some specialization trainings in software testing and DevOps area, like CI/CD, containerization, code quality, test automation, and performance testing. And Today I'm going to make a preview of ISTQ foundation level training. You can consider it a preview. I'm gonna talk about software test design techniques, which are very important in sense of software testing proficiency. So let's start with a question. What is technique and why is it important? Has anyone an answer for the question? I'm not sure they can get right to talk because there are just audience right here. Okay, I think I will not be able to get the answer, but in the end, I will get the questions to the Q&A part. So
I think you have an answer at
okay,
TestTalks.
Joseph answered my question. Thank you. Technique is important, I think. Okay. Behavior development is important, but testing are very, very important. Okay. Techniques are important to get quick results. Right. Techniques are important in many sense, not only in software testing, but also in sports. Maybe you are familiar or not familiar with weightlifting. Naim Süleymanoğlu is a champion weightlifter, a Turkish guy who has many Olympic and World Championships. And you know, there are two different disciplines in weightlifting. You know, the first one is snatch. You directly get the weight up, and in the jerk, you do it in two different steps. First, you put on your chest, and later then you go all the way up. So there are two different disciplines and two different weights you can lift. In snatch discipline, Naim Süleymanoğlu can lift it more than 150 kilograms. When he directly lifted the weight, it's about 150 kilograms. But in the other discipline, with jerk, he managed to lift 190 kilograms. The same guy, same height, but very different weights. So it is so important in every aspect of life, just like sports. It's same in the software industry, in software testing, it's same. This is the test maturity pyramid. You see there is a layer there, test techniques, but I like to mention a little bit more about the test maturity pyramid. When you want to increase the maturity of a team, a company's testing level, you should first start with building a common language. You need to define what is priority, what is severity, how should a test case, a test scenario build up, what are the mandatory and nice to have parts, how we need to describe a defect. We need to have a basis for it. Then in the second step, in the second layer, we need to define the test processes. For the company, for the team, we need processes. Who will be responsible, when, and how tests will be handled. When we build the second layer, we go to the third one. Third one is about organization. What kind of organization we are going to have? An independent test team or distributed to the project teams, or a hybrid model? How the test organization will be. This is the third step. On the fourth step, there are techniques. Software testing techniques are there for efficiency, and effectiveness. With test techniques, with test design techniques, we are able to run a small set of test cases to find big proportion of the defects. Let's say, rather than running all the possibilities, let's say 100,000 test cases. Instead of running 100,000 test cases, we just run 200 test cases that a specific test technique tell us. We are able to find more than 80 or 90% of defects, which is very important. Techniques tell us which test cases, which test scenarios are important to run. And on the fifth layer, there are tools. Tools are important, but not in the beginning. It's in the very end to define and build up. Because first you need to let your requirements to arise. I did not mention about software requirements. I mentioned the needs for software testing. First, we need to let our needs for software testing arise, and then we should find the right tool for testing. I mean, test case management, defect management, and also test automation tools, all same. Okay. Techniques are very important. We all agree with it. So how to define, how to categorize software testing techniques? This is a very important image. You can see all kinds of software testing techniques, which we also show in our ISTQB Foundation and Advanced Level trainings. There are two main categories for software design techniques: dynamic test design techniques and static test design techniques. Dynamic test design techniques stand for techniques that require software execution. They are more conventional, they are intuitive, just like clicking a button or sending a request to a web service. Those are all dynamic tests. And on the other side, there are static test design techniques which do not require execution of the software, just like reviews or static code and architecture analysis. Today, I'm going to mention about specification-based black box dynamic test design techniques and how to use in our testing efforts. Okay. So, in dynamic design technique category, as you have seen in the previous page, there are different subcategories. The first one is black box testing, the second one white box testing, third one experience-based, and also you can add defect-based techniques as a fourth category or combine with the third experience-based techniques. It doesn't matter so much. Techniques are there. It's not important how you categorize them, but they have all pros and cons, better places to use. And today, as I said, I'm going to mention black box techniques. Black box techniques also can be named as specification-based or requirement-based techniques because they mainly based on software requirements. In black box testing, you treat software like a black box and you do not know any internal flows, any internal workings of the application. You just have the requirements, just have the design. So you build up your test scenarios through that test basis in order to find the most bugs in the inputs. So it's like a black box for you. You just try to give the best inputs to find the most number of defects in the inputs, in the outputs. So it is also very useful technique. You should not think it's not very worthy because we do not know the internal parts, internal flows of the system, because it gives you ability to test software like an anti-user, like a real user, and also black box and all meanwhile white box techniques can be used on each testing levels, like unit testing, subsystem integration testing, system testing. It is able to use black box or white box testing for each level and for each test type. I mean, by saying test type, functional and non-functional test types. So here are 5 design techniques today I'm going to mention. Techniques have some places to use. Some are stronger than others, and also they can be used with combination. They are not separate from each other. Let's say equivalence partitioning technique can be combined with use case technique, or decision table technique can be used with state transition technique. There is no strict borders here for test design techniques. You can combine according to your context, which is very important. Context means the conditions you are in, the type of the project, and the industry you are in actually defines your context. For some industries, for some type of project, context consists high risk. And if you have high risk, you need better quality approaches, like defining harder exit criteria. You need to be quality oriented. But for some projects, for some industries, you need to be time oriented. It's more important for you to release your software to market. You should be time to market oriented. There are two actually different ways of thinking and considerations when it comes to design techniques and risks. Okay, let's go into details. Right, Fire, do you have any questions? And also Joseph added gray box technique. Yeah, gray box is between black box and white box. You semi-know the internal parts of the system. You don't actually know everything, but you have some idea to the internal structure of the system. Yeah. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. Let's go into details. Let's start with equivalence partitioning. Okay, Joseph says so far so good. Thank you. So let's start with equivalence partitioning. Equivalence partitioning is a technique which I really like. It's not that hard to use, that hard to benefit, but very useful, very effective technique. Equivalence partitioning tells you for input there are some classes you can group your inputs. Let's say them partitions. It will be easy to understand when I give my example, but in the definition, equivalence partitioning tells us the group inputs considering their similarities. Let's say for a calculator, inputs might be negative numbers, positive numbers, and 0. These are 3 different partitions, 3 different categories for a valid set. And also equivalence partitioning tells us as well as valid partition, we also need to partition the invalid part. There might be some partitions in the invalid input area. We also need to consider them. And that techniques tell us it is so much better to select test scenarios homogeneously from each partition rather than selecting randomly. If you select all the inputs, let's consider my previous example. If you select all test cases from negative numbers, you will not able to find some types of defects, but it's better to select some negative, some 0, including some positive numbers. Let's say for 10 test scenarios. You don't need to run every different scenario, but it's better to cover all the partitions. Okay, so it's same for different types of science and mathematics. In static analysis, let's consider a general election. You need to get some test sets people from different parts of your country. This is Turkey. There are 7 different regions, and if you like to have a realistic election survey, you need to go and survey each region and see their tendency and statistically then analyze them. So it works. And it's also for mathematical formulas, same. There is a function there, and inside function there is a valid zone, and outside the function there are 3 different invalid zones. Equivalence partition tell us it is bad to select all the test cases from just one partition. You need to distribute them through all the partitions. And here is a question which is a very good example to understand equivalence partition test design technique. There's a savings account in a bank, earns a different rate of interest depending on the balance in the account. If a balance in range 0 up to 100, there will be 3% interest rate. If it is between 100 and 1,000, it will have a 5% interest rate. And if it is above 1,000, there will be a 7% interest rate. So the question is, how many equivalence partitions exist, and what are valid and invalid parts? Do you have any answers? And also Joseph sent a message to the chat widget. Each condition should equal to something but covers all the conditions at the same time. Right, yes. Checking invalid values is negative test. Right. Equivalence partitioning techniques at the same time address positive and negative test scenarios together. Right. So, for the question, as you can easily think of, there are three different valid partitions and one invalid partition there. If we want to have a coverage criteria, 100 coverage for equivalence partitions, we need at least one test scenario for each partition. But currently the partitions are not that much enough. It is strongly suggested to select more than just test scenario, but selecting just one test scenario from each valid and invalid partition is enough for the coverage goal. Okay, cool. Let's move to the second technique. Second technique named boundary value analysis. In fact, boundary analysis technique is an extension of equivalence partitioning. The big brother of equivalence partitioning. Boundary analysis tells us it's not enough to divide inputs into partitions because the problems, the facts, arise mostly in the boundaries. There won't be so much problem in the middle of the partition. You know, it will be boundaries that will be most problematic. So it can be considered like an extension of equivalence partitioning test design technique. And boundary analysis tells us we first need to define the partitions. And so, by the way, there are two different boundary partition techniques: 2-point boundary and 3-point boundary. 2-point boundary creates more test cases, but stronger. 2-point boundary model creates less test scenario, a little less stronger. Okay, now I'm going to tell 2-point analysis. In 2-point analysis, in 2-point boundary analysis, you need to define first the partitions and test the boundaries and outer adjacent inputs of each partition. Let's say here it is your partition. In boundary analysis, you need to test lower bound and upper bound of the partition, and also you need the adjacent inputs for your tests. This is the criteria for 2-point boundary analysis technique. Okay, it actually naturally finds more effects than equivalence partitioning because of its structure. So here is a question, actually an example to understand better. The question: a printer that has input options of the number of copies to make from 1 to 99. So the question is, how many equivalence partition tests and boundary tests will be? I'm gonna give you around a minute of time and then check the chat panel. Okay, Dülger said, is necessary to take invalid scenarios in the equivalence partitioning? Yes, it is necessary to take invalid scenarios for the coverage criteria. Is boundary analysis is an edge case test scenario? Yes, it is edge case test scenario testing. You can think like you are testing an integer input. Boundary analysis technique tells you you should not test with 11, 9, 10, or with a random number. You need to go to the boundary of integer. I'm not sure, it's like 32 million or something. You should test that actually. Okay, there are answers for the questions, by the way. So, if you are using 2-point analysis, it is 1 and 99 as boundaries, and adjacent values, outer adjacent values 0 and 100. This is for 2-point analysis. And for 3-point boundary analysis, you also need to get inner adjacents for your tests. For 3-point analysis, you also need to add 2 and 98. Okay. Let's repeat. For 2-point boundary analysis, you need 199, 0, 100. For 3-point analysis, you need 199, 0, 100, 2, and 98. For 2-point, you need 4 test cases. For 3-point boundary analysis, you need 6 test cases. Okay. You are welcome, Joseph. Okay. Do you have any more questions?
You have one more chat box.
Okay, if 2-point analysis is true, then I guess rest 3 and 4, so on cases will pass. Actually, there is nothing more than 3 points. There is no 4-point or 5-point. There is no such technique there. But in one of the next techniques for state transition, there is such a way of coverage like 0 switch 1, switch 2, switch 4, switch 5, switch. It goes up to eternity. So there mainly 0 switch 1 switch are enough for many of the projects. You will be able to find more than 80% of defects. Okay, I'm going to tell us. So the third test design technique, decision table testing. It's a technique for higher risk areas because it displays all the test conditions in a table. We will create a table which consists conditions. You can consider them inputs, actions, also named outputs, condition entries, all the possibilities of conditions. If we have 2 conditions for this test, there will be 2 power 2 number of condition entries. It is 4. There will be 4 test cases displayed on the table. If we have 3 conditions, there will be 8 test cases to be displayed. So these are all the possibilities, and action entries are which a set of condition creates which action. There will be just no one action. there might be numerous of actions, and which input set create the which action. I know it's not that much meaningful when I tell theoretically, but it will be easy to understand through an example. So I go to the example. Okay. We have a customer, let's consider we have a customer who wants to have car insurance policy, and we have two conditions. Plate number 34, which belongs to Istanbul. You know, Istanbul is one of the biggest and crowded cities in the world. There is a big traffic jam here, and the risk of traffic accident is high. So insurance companies consider being or having an Istanbul plate. It is a criteria for them. And also in this example, there is a motor volume, engine volume. If it is below or above something, it will affect the category of the package for the insurance package. Okay, so what if we want to create a decision table for such a problem? Here, how it will look like. We have two conditions, right? Having a plate or having not a plate with 34, and having an engine less or about 1.4 liters. Actually, friends, it's not important to use negative wordings here. You can say here having plate 34, because we will address all the possibilities, so it will not make any sense using a negative impression here. So we have two conditions and four different test cases, all the possibilities here. And on the bottom left, there are two actions, the outputs, insurance policy package, whether it will be an economy package or luxury package. Okay, so for this test case, we need to figure out what will be this decision, economy or luxury. When we solve the table, there will be just like decisions. Decision table test techniques tell us all the possibilities for high risk areas. It is a very strong technique. But also there is a sub-technique, table collision. If you collapse the decision table, you need to just run one test case for each action. For collapse test design table, it is okay for you to run just one test scenario for economy and one for luxury. It will not guarantee to find all the defects, because you will not be testing second and the third scenarios. But if you have limited time and resources, collapsing table gives you better chance than randomly selecting the scenarios. Actually, it is the point. Okay. So, okay, close. Joseph said 2 multiplies 2 powers to 4. Okay. And this was the third technique, third black box test design technique. And I move to the fourth one. Fourth one is state transition testing. Actually, in the previous technique, I mentioned a little bit about state transition technique. It is a technique we were very suitable for embedded systems, because if you like to use this technique, we need to define system from beginning to end. And for complex enterprise systems, it's not so easy. We are not so able to define all the relations of the systems. It is a little hard to use this technique at that level. But for embedded software, for high risk and small software, it is a very good technique to use. In state transition techniques, actually, it is there are more than inputs and outputs. This technique tells us, yes, we have inputs and outputs, but also we have states of system. It will be more easy to tell through an example. Let's consider a computer or a television. Okay, when it is off, in off state, if we press on start up button, press on switch button, it will start the laptop up, and it will be on the up on. It will be on state. If we press the same button, it will go to shutdown state, or maybe it will go to standby state. Okay, we have inputs and outputs and also states. State transition testing aims to cover the transitions. It aims to cover the transitions of the system. As I said, there are different coverage criteria. The most common one is zero switch coverage. Zero switch coverage means testing all the one-way roads. Testing this transition from off to on. Testing this transition from on to off. Testing this transition from on to standby, and this transition from standby to on. This is zero switch. The number of test cases for zero switch coverage equals the number of transitions in the system. So, for this example, we need 4 different test cases, which are displayed on the table. This is zero switch coverage. But this is not the only coverage. We also have one switch coverage. We can, if we like, use 2 switch coverage, 3 switch coverage. But as I said, 0 switch coverage and 1 switch coverage criteria are enough for most systems, because they find more than 80% of defects in the system. And the marginal benefit for the higher levels diminish through the time. It's just like diminishing returns. I'm not sure the actual term, but in the finance there is a rule named diminishing returns. When you use, let's say, zero switch and one switch coverage, you create, let's say, 30 test cases and find 70% or 80% of test defects. But if you consider two switch, three switch, you need to run maybe hundreds of test cases, and you will find, let's say, 85 or 87% of defects. Okay. I told the zero switch, but I didn't mention about one switch. One switch is to cover all the possible ways with two transitions. I'm gonna select a different color of pen. Let's select the green one. There is no short calculation for one switch. We need to calculate for each state. Let's start with S0 off state. We need to figure out how many roads are there with two hops. Okay, let's calculate. Let's figure out. I may go there and come back. This is a one test scenario with two transitions. For one switch coverage, I need test scenarios with two transitions. This is a first one. The second one might be, if I go on state, I am able to go to standby with two transitions. Then there are two possibilities from off state to anywhere else. For on state, it is same. I can come here and return back. Also, I can come here and return back. There are two different ways, and it's same for standby, go, come back, go, and pass through off state. Luckily, all the ways, all the number of ways are equal 2, and if we combine them, we can tell we need 6 test cases for one switch coverage, and I thought we need 4 test cases for zero switch coverage. Okay. If you have any questions regarding state transition, if we would use 2 switch coverage, there will be we need to figure out the paths with 3 transitions. Okay, and also this diagram might be different, so the number of defects may vary. Sorry, number of test cases may vary. It doesn't require to be same for each state. Okay. Then move to the final one, use case testing. You know, use cases are one of the UMLs, Unified Modeling Language diagrams. They are mainly generated by business analysts, but they are also very precious, very valuable inputs for our test scenarios. If we are lucky to have use cases in our projects for our software, it is better to use them for our test cases, because use cases define the relation between actor and the system. They depict the features which actor can do and cannot do. So we can easily create test scenarios, positive and negative test scenarios, using use cases which are previously generated for analysis and design phases. Okay, if we have them, we can just write the features that use cases tell us for that actor in the action column of test scenarios, and in the expected result part we need to fill blank parts, and then we will have a complete test scenario using that use case. Okay, so I have few questions actually for better understanding. This is one of them. Before ending up our meetup, I like to ask those questions because it is better for long-term memory, solving some problems. Here are two problems related with the same scenario. I'm gonna give you 2 to 3 minutes, give you some time. I strongly advise, by the way, draw the decision table, because without drawing, it might be hard to not to forget conditions and actions. Okay. This will be also a test for me because I'm the instructor, and it will show my also performance regarding the topic. Yeah. Any answers? Let me also open this light up. Okay, much better. Joseph says 3, but there's no 3 option. One of the options there is correct, Joseph. Joseph, maybe you mean the number of conditions, right? Not the number of test cases. I think you are. Okay. Yes, there are 3 different conditions. What are they? Loyalty card, being new customer, and having a coupon, right? There are 3 different conditions. If we have the power for 3 conditions, 8 test cases will be displayed in the table, right? Okay, cool, thank you. What about the second question? It's about collapsing the decision table. Do you remember what I said there? What I told you? It is enough for collapse table running only one test case for each action, for each output, each possible output. So, have an answer? No. Okay. Let me answer it. It is 5 because there might be 5 different actions as an output. What are they? Customer might get 10% discount, 15, 20, and also 0 and 30. Maybe he has no coupon, no loyalty card, and not a new customer, right? It's just like me. I never have any loyalty card, so it might be me getting 0 discount. And also there are 30% discount option. It says coupon can't be used with new customer discount, but it doesn't say it can't be used with existing. So it cannot be used with loyalty card discount. You are able to use it. So 30% discount is there. Okay. Thank you. So another question for state transition testing. How many test cases are required to give one switch coverage? Do you remember how to calculate one switch coverage? Right? You need to figure out the ways with 2 transactions. It's better to calculate from each state. It's much easier. Any answers? Nine. Okay. As far as I remember, it's not that high. That should be 3. Because let's remember again how to calculate. Start with A and try to figure out how many ways exist with 2 transactions. Actually, this is the only scenario with 2 transactions. You cannot go anywhere rather than this scenario. There's just one. Okay. From B, you can just go C and return back. There is no other scenario with 2 transitions. It's again 1. And from C, you can go to B and come back. And also it's just 1. And we add to each other, go to 3. Okay? No problem. Okay. So, the final question, the last one. A boundary layer analysis question. If you like to solve the problem, it's much better to draw a line and put boundaries there and also put boundaries from the question, just like that. For up to 10, there's one partition. From 11 to 15, there is another partition, right? And it goes up like this. And the question asks you which of the following sets of test inputs provides higher level of coverage. You might have this type of question in an I.Equivalence exam for any test technique. It is not mandatory to achieve 100% coverage. Question might ask you which creates the highest coverage. This is an example for those type of questions. So, any answer? A, D. I don't remember, but I suppose not both. Let's see. It is C. All the numbers are test cases for boundaries. There are, of course, more than 5. As I remember, there are 8 boundaries to cover, but this option C, covers 5 of them. None of the other options cover such high rate. Okay. So, this is all for this unique. I mentioned 5 different black box techniques and why techniques are important. So if you have any questions regarding techniques or I.Equivalence foundation level exam or training, I'm very happy to answer them. Yeah, well, hello, greetings from India. I know one of your experience software testing. How can I enhance my test automation skills and penetration testing? Okay, cool. Penetration testing actually is not my area. I have some experience with SAST and DAST, static application security testing, and dynamic application security testing tools. But it's not actually penetration testing. But for test automation, I have experiences. I have hands-on and manager experiences. It's better for you, first of all, be proficient in one of the programming languages. It might be Java or .NET, which are very common. But for test automation, an interpreted language like Python, Ruby, or Ruby is much more technically suitable. You can very easily practice in one of them, and to get experience with programming languages, it is also a good way to start with Selenium, because for Selenium test or automation, you will have also programming experience. You will need to learn inheritance. You will need to learn object class relation, overriding, and so on and so forth. That can be my advice to you. Is the session record will be shared? Yes, to YouTube it will be shared. Yeah, we're gonna upload to our channel, Keytorc's TestTalks session.
Yes, exactly. And I will also send follow-up email to all our attendees with the recorded link of this session. And also all of our open source reports for everyone to free download and review all of our reports.
And also there is an upcoming I.Equivalence session in English, as I remember, at the end of July or something like that. Maybe you can send details of that training session for the
Yeah, sure,
attendees.
exactly. I will put it there.
Okay. Thank you, friends, for today joining us. We are also planning to have more sessions in next months. It is a pleasure to talk to you. So, see you again.
See you, everyone. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for coming today.